everyone. I am so sorry for being late on here. My sincere apologies. I had some glitches, but everything's fine now, and I'm here to answer your questions. A lot of you may know me on Instagram as Obsessively Anxious, and I'm so thankful for all of you. I am going to start answering questions now. I just have to look. Oh my God, you guys weren't playing around. Okay. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. I'm going to be on here for about 45 minutes. So let's see. Okay. How do you stop checking the water, faucet, and stove? Okay, this is a really good question, actually. So my main compulsions were checking my kids. I wouldn't want to leave. I wouldn't want to use the iron. I wouldn't want to use the flat iron or the stove because I was afraid that I would accidentally leave it on and, you know, something horrific would happen. So what I did was I used to take pictures of them, which I didn't know was compulsive, but I thought it was a safety measure. So what I did, honestly, as tough as it sounds, I just stopped. I trusted myself enough to know that once I was done using the stove, using the flat iron, that I would unplug it because I know myself. But my OCD brain was trying to make me feel like, but what if you didn't? You have to trust yourself. And the more, don't get me wrong, I still do it. I still just kind of will glance at the flat iron and be like, should I take a picture just to be sure? And then I'm like, no, shouldn't do that. All right, so I hope that helps a little bit. Again, before I go any further with this is not therapy. This is just me talking to you as an advocate perspective. Nothing that I say here tonight is considered therapy. It's just one advocate speaking on experience, and that's it. Usually Medina is here with me, but she's not available tonight, so I'm kind of solo on this, and I'm really nervous, but you guys are great, so I know everything will be fine. But please excuse, I had some technical difficulties with my computer, so now I'm on my phone, and that's why I was so late. So I don't even know where I'm looking at right now. I'm just kind of like bobbing my head around. But anyway, you don't want to hear me talk about that. Okay. Let's see. Should I continue an exposure if I feel unsafe? Okay. So the reason why exposures are so hard and why ERP is so hard is because they make you feel unsafe. That's its job. That's what it's supposed to do. If exposures weren't hard, then I really don't know if I would have gotten any better. So what exposures actually do is, okay, let me give you a perfect example. The locking of the doors for me. An exposure for me, I used to have to pull it 10 times or I wouldn't think it was locked. An exposure for that would be to pull the door, leave. Yes, that would make me feel unsafe. That would make me feel very unsafe. And that's a mild exposure. That would make me feel very unsafe. But that is the point. It's retraining your mind on how to refocus your brain that there's no danger present. Because realistically, there isn't. And you know that there isn't. But somehow there's some nagging feeling in your brain saying, sorry, there's like things going outside my door. Saying, but what if you didn't lock the door? What if someone breaks in? So yes, I think you should continue an exposure if you feel unsafe because that's what it's gonna be hard. It's gonna make you feel really, really crappy, but that's its job. And the more you do an exposure, not compulsively, but the more that you do an exposure, the more your mind resonates with, wow, this really wasn't unsafe. It was just my mind telling me it was. Let me see here. How to stay motivated to do ERP. It is so hard. Oh my God, I'm sending you so much love. It is so flipping hard. So I think of it this way. I could either wake up and not do ERP and live in fear of what could happen or what my thoughts could say for the rest of my life. Or I could motivate myself to do ERP and know that I'm changing my life and my family's life for the better. I can tell you that after almost 2 years of doing ERP, I never ever thought that I would be in as good of a place as I am with my OCD. I was so scared back then. Like, I was terrified. I would wake up in the morning and there would feel like an elephant was sitting on my chest because I was so anxious all of the time. And the thoughts that were running through my head, I knew I had no control over them, but somehow I feel like they meant something about me. And they don't. But you have to stay motivated. And some days it's like, I try to do at least an hour of ERP a day. When I'm having a really bad day, sometimes I don't do that. And you have to give yourself grace. Don't feel like, well, I only did 15 minutes of ERP today. Okay, but you did ERP today. So be thankful for yourself for that. Be proud of yourself. If you didn't do it the normal time you would want to do it, that's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Okay. I just had to answer this. I'm so confused. Has it started yet? Sweetheart, I'm so sorry about that. I feel so bad. Yes, it started. I had technical glitches with my computer, and I'm so sorry about that, honey. Just trying to go through here. I follow your Instagram, your posts help me so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate you following me. I wouldn't be where I am without you guys today. So thank you so much, everyone that follows me. I love you, and everyone that doesn't follow me, I still love you. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out, how do you stop evil thoughts? Okay, you don't try to stop them. And I don't like to label thoughts evil or bad or good, because at the end of the day, whether it's evil, whether it's bad, whether it's suicidal, whatever it is, it's still at the end of the day just a thought. So by labeling your thought evil, you're automatically saying to yourself, okay, well, if I'm having evil thoughts, then that must mean that I am evil. No, that is not what that means. You are just labeling it. So by taking upon that label of your thoughts, now you're bringing that label onto yourself. That is not what you want to do, because then what it's going to do is it's going to spiral downward. And you're going to be like, well, I hate myself. I don't want anyone else to love me. So try to stop doing that. I know it's easy for me to say try to stop doing that, and I know it's not easy to do. But once you start saying to yourself, oh, it's just another stupid thought that pops into my head, and not labeling it as something, then you are able to have more compassion for yourself, and you're able to sit with the thoughts more easily. If you go on my page, I don't label thoughts. A thought is a thought. And I actually just did a post on that yesterday, so go check it out. I'm not trying to get people to my page, I promise. How do you stop excessive worry and panic? Okay, so just because you feel anxious about something doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong. I used to, and I still do at times, I used to have to feel just right. I couldn't feel anxious. I couldn't feel angry. I couldn't feel sad, because then I would think that it meant something about me. So a lot of times when I didn't feel that just right feeling, I would compulse and I would ruminate, and then I would excessively worry and panic. So once I'm not sure if that's what the core of, I mean, OCD is based off of excessive worry. So, if you're not seeing an OCD therapist, I would suggest doing so. But a lot of times, for me anyway, it would be, well, I don't feel right. Like, I had this thought, but I don't feel right. So then I would excessively worry and I would excessively panic about what that could possibly mean about me. So hope that helped a little bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to find some, since I don't have Medina on here, I want to make sure that I'm answering questions that I know the answers to, because usually she's here to help me out with that. So, okay, this is a really, really good question. What to do when you feel like compulsions are part of your personality now? First of all, I am sending you so much love because I have been there so many times. So I'll give you an example of what my compulsions used to be as a part of my routine. And maybe you could see that you may think that they're a part of your personality now, but they're not. OCD has just tried to glitch it into your personality to make it more so it's trying to make you believe that it's you now and not OCD. It's just another trick. So, like I said earlier, and like I said before on my page, my biggest thing was checking my kids' breathing at night. I would, no lie, I have 2 children. I would, no lie, be in each of their rooms for an hour checking their breathing every single night. It got to the point where I was physically sick to my stomach. Like my stomach would hurt because I was so anxious, because if I didn't check them a certain amount of times, then I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. So when I was finally done with that, I would go back to my bed and lay down. And then all of a sudden my mind would be like, but what if you didn't check them right? What if the teddy bear is too close to their face? I have to get up, and then I have to restart the compulsions all over again. That made it feel like it was part of my personality, like I couldn't separate myself from the compulsions. Now, mental compulsions, see, I was physically going in there, but I was mentally doing it. So it was the combination of mental and physical compulsions. Compulsions are hard to stop regardless, but when you have mental compulsions, it feels so automatic that it feels like you're doing it without even noticing it. And that's what I had. So again, with the faucet and the stove, trusting myself and saying, okay, you know what? I checked them this many times, and now I'm leaving and I'm going in my room and I'm laying down. What I did was I went down from an hour to 45 minutes. You can't just go from an hour to 0. That's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible. I'm sure it's not impossible, but for me, it was impossible. So I went from an hour, then I went to 45 minutes. And I did that for about a week. And then after 45 minutes, I went to a half hour, again, for a week. And I would do it in 15-minute increments. And then once I got to 15 minutes, the next day I said, I'm only going to do it for 10 minutes. And then the next day it was 5 minutes. And now, check my kids once and I leave the room. Doesn't matter what number of breathing I'm on, I leave. If it's on number 5, if it's not on number 5, I'm leaving. Plain and simple. That's it. I go down, lay in my bed, and I go to sleep. So yes, it feels like it's part of your personality, but it's not. I just got to get off for 1 second, Mr. Lynch. I'm sorry. 1 second. Okay. Just had to close my door. Sorry about that. Okay. I see a few questions that are along the same lines of some things that I answered already. So I'm just trying to go through. Okay, this is going to be something that resonates hard with a lot of people. Severe germ contamination, OCD here. This cold flu season has been particularly hard. I don't care about colds, just stomach virus. Very, very hard. Okay. So this is with the stomach bug. That sounds like emetophobia. Sounds like you either have a fear of vomiting. I'm not sure, But that's a very common fear. It goes hand in hand with like it's an OCD theme. Like you're afraid of vomiting. I'm afraid of vomiting. I hate it. I'm terrified of the summer bug. And my son just got over one last week and I felt so bad for the poor kid. With COVID going around, with cold, flu season, stomach virus, all that, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Wear your masks. I'm not going to tell anybody to get vaccinated because that's your choice. Whether you do or whether you don't is none of my business. It's none of my concern. But, wear your masks, wash your hands. I've noticed that by wearing my mask, I haven't gotten sick. I'm usually sick like 5 or 6 times a year, and I've gotten sick maybe twice this year, which is really good, thank God. If you happen to get sick, you can't say to yourself, oh, I could have done something to prevent this. I could have washed my hands more. I could have worn my mask more. Maybe you could have, maybe you couldn't have, but that's the type of uncertainty you need to live with. You'll never know. So why are you going to spend the point ruminating about it? The only thing you're going to do is create more distress upon yourself when you already are distressed because now you're sick and your OCD is starting back up again because everybody knows that when you're not feeling well, intrusive thoughts seem to come at you tenfold. Not really sure why that happens. It's just how it is. I actually got a message today from someone saying that she got struck down with COVID. Please keep her in your prayers. And her intrusive thoughts have gotten really, really severe because she isn't feeling well. She asked me, is that normal? And I'm like, I can't even tell you how many times I've been sick and the intrusive thoughts were worse than the cold, But just all you can do is the best that you can. That's it. You can't do any more than what you can do. And try not, because if you continue to worry about it, you're gonna make yourself sick over worrying about not making yourself sick. Do you know what I mean? So I hope that helps you, honey. Let me see. Okay. I have anxiety, also OCD. I have been obsessing about the same thing for a month now. I get extremely anxious when the thought comes up. I'm more so terrified of manifesting it. It's driving me nuts. Oh, you poor thing. My heart really goes out to you because I've still been there. Okay. When people talk, whenever you see on social media, and I don't mean to say this, but this was something that really, really made me upset. I do have a post about it. When people say on social media that you can manifest your thoughts, you cannot manifest your thoughts. When they talk about, I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me. When they talk about manifesting your thoughts, what they're speaking of is in a positive sense, like, I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to do beautiful things today. Positivity. They're not going to speak of negativity. That's not what they're saying when they're manifesting it. And with OCD, it'll make you feel like if you think something so much that it's actually going to come into reality, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's just another cognitive distortion of OCD, along with so much other crap that we have to deal with it. I'm telling you right now, it's not possible. You can't make something happen by thinking it. You are not that powerful. No disrespect to you, sweetheart, by any means. But none of us are. If that was the case, then I wouldn't be going bald right now. I mean, I would be manifesting more hair. It doesn't happen that way. So I understand that, you're getting extremely anxious about it, but sitting with it really is the best way to go about, just let it be there. It cannot hurt you. I know it seems scary. I know it seems like you have to do something right now, but you do. You have to sit with it. That's what you have to do. Sorry, guys, I'm just looking. I'm sorry, I have to share this because I love this. On days when it's really hard, I have to be tougher with my ritual prevention. Like one therapist always said, OCD is like a toddler. That is such a wonderful analogy. Think about it. OCD is constantly throwing a tantrum in your brain because it's saying, I want this right now. I want reassurance right now. I want you to do a compulsion right now. If you do not give in to its tantrum, it quiets, just like a toddler. I am so going to use that. I love that so much. Is it common for people to exaggerate, change, twist details to cover their fears when seeking reassurance to be absolutely sure or cover all bases just in case? Okay, so I'm a little confused by this question, but I'm going to try my best. Is it common? I'm just going to read this over again. So I've asked my husband and my friends for reassurance to be absolutely sure to cover all bases, all bases. But I'm not going to exaggerate and I'm not going to twist details because then I would be lying. I mean, I might ask over and over again, but I'm never going to exaggerate things because now I'm not only lying to them, but now I feel worse because I lied to them. So, you don't want to lie to anybody. Okay, so someone asked me, 60 minutes, how do your exposures take that long? So what I do is I do multiple exposures. I don't just do one exposure. Um, I'll do one exposure for 20 minutes, and then a little later on in the day, I'll do another exposure for 20 minutes, and then later on in the day, I'll do another. So I kind of try to split it up 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening. So how do you overcome the impatience to seek assurance? I think you mean reassurance, but so with OCD, a lot of times, this is a really great question. I can't talk. A really great question, by the way. How do you overcome the impatience to seek reassurance? So the thing with OCD is that it makes you feel like if you don't seek reassurance and if you don't um, divulge, divulge, like disclose all your intrusive thoughts to someone in your life, then you're hiding something. It wants to make you feel that way because it wants you to seek reassurance. It wants you to feel like you're doing the right thing by telling someone. You're not. You're not. You're not. You're not. You're not hiding anything from anybody. Realistically, if you have an OCD therapist, they're the only ones that really need to. They don't, I don't even know like if they need to know the basis of your thoughts, but when it, like I said earlier, and I know you probably want to smack me for saying this all the time, but at the end of the day, a thought is a thought. It doesn't mean that you need to seek reassurance from it. Like I would feel the need to tell my husband my intrusive thoughts and have him tell me that he's had thoughts similar to that, just so it could reassure me that I'm not nuts. Um, but really, what I was doing was feeding the cycle because I wasn't sitting with the fact that it's a thought. I was, sorry, my cat just came in. Um, I wasn't sitting with the fact that it was just a regular thought. I was needing to know if someone else had had that. And I don't need to know. You don't need to know. Hmm. Really struggling with, sorry, I have to close my door again. Really struggling with false memory, real event, OCD. My OCD tells me that I did stuff that I know I didn't. It seems to change every day and really puts me in anxiety. My struggle is how real as it feels. Okay. So false memory and real event OCD are torturous SOBs. Like, I have something that I say a lot. It's the memory, what is it? I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm going to try to send it on here later, but the real memory stops when the doubt begins. Okay. So what that means is you're going in your head over and over and over again if this happened. But once you start doubting yourself, OCD will somehow all of a sudden start to ping pong things in there, different details that you never even thought of before. Like, you could have had this false memory yesterday, and then today there's 5 different details in it because it wants to make you feel even worse. You have to sit with the fact that it may have happened, it may not have happened, but going over it in your mind again and again and again is only going to create more doubt. So what you have to do is you have to sit with the uncertainty and say to yourself, you know what? I know myself, I know my values, I know my character, and I'm going to stand by that. And OCD could go to HELL, so. Have you ever felt disassociated with your life? A little similar, like someone said above. I have these thoughts sometimes and just maybe think I'm not happy with my life, although I know that I am. That makes me feel so sad. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. So it's common. I'm not going to say it's common because I don't know. But I felt a lot of derealization. I'm honestly not sure if that's the same thing as disassociation because I never really did any research on it. But with derealization, it makes you feel like you're here, but you're not, but you feel like you're not here. You feel like your mind is in a cloud. And what is going on, like a permanent brain fog is the best way that I could describe it. So what's going on is that your mind is so consumed all the time. It's like a hamster wheel that continues to spin all the time. Your mind is a muscle. It's so tired. So, excuse me. So it's not functioning. I mean, it's functioning, but it's worn out. Just think of it like this. If you work out your legs 7 days a week for 7 hours a day, do you think you're going to be able to walk right? Of course not. That's the same thing that's going on with your mind. Your mind is spinning constantly. And you have headaches because you're thinking so much. You have a stomach ache because you're thinking so much. So you're in a brain fog. The more that you sit with the thoughts and try not to relish too much on what they mean, the derealization will start to dwindle. Now, just because you felt the derealization doesn't mean you're in any danger. That actually means that your body is doing its job because it's slowing your body down. So I talk about DPDR a lot because, there were some false claims made that DPDR can turn in, like, someone asked me one time, like, oh, has DPDR ever turned into like psychosis? And I'm like, that's literally impossible. Here's my reason why. DPDR is your mind actually slowing you down. You are aware that something is wrong. You're aware that you're not feeling right. So by feeling that, it's a clear indication that your mind is intact because you know what's going on. People in psychosis do not know what's going on at all. If you need any more information on this, then I have a page. Geez, I can't talk. I'm sorry. You guys probably never want to come back on here again. On my page, on my highlights, it says DPDR. There's a link on there that proves my point. And if you don't see it, happily message me and I will get back to you as soon as I can. DPDR is depersonalization, derealization. Sorry. My OCD is getting much better, guys. Keep going. Oh, I am so happy for you. Oh, and I see who you are. I love you. Have you ever seen OCD turn out to be true because it feels super real? I have never seen it turn out to be true. And I want to point out right now that OCD will feel as real as it can get. If it didn't feel real, it wouldn't be as debilitating as it is. That's all I can say about that. Let me see what else I have here. I need help with bathroom contamination advice. I have to be in the dark and I don't use private bathrooms. I am so sorry that you're struggling with this. That sounds so difficult. So I never really struggled too much with contamination. Um, you know, what I would say is if you have to be in the dark, start slowly. Like expose yourself, maybe put a nightlight in the bathroom and, a very dim nightlight and start off like that as an exposure. And then work up to maybe, I don't know, in my bathroom, I have 3 light switches. So on each switch, it makes it brighter. So after the nightlight, after you do that sometimes and you get comfortable with doing that, try putting on one switch in the bathroom and have it be a little brighter. And, there's no issues with wiping down your toilet. I mean, I do that all the time and I don't have contamination issues. So try to start there and see if that helps and let me know if that works for you. I'm just trying to see if I have any more things that I my struggle is my brain tells me that once something is clean, that it's okay for me to die. And then if I don't die, then my family will. So it makes me think that I have to be the one. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry, honey. That's that sounds like just an absolute nightmare. And I feel so bad for you that you have to do that and that your brain is telling you that. I'm trying to think of a way to describe this that I could put it into a way that will resonate with you. I'm just going to read this again. So it looks like what you're saying is that once something is clean, then I'm not sure if I'm a little confused about this one, honestly. Um, my struggle is, sorry guys, my struggle is my brain tells me that once something is clean, then it's okay. So I don't know if you meant to say that once something is clean, that you won't die. If that's the case, then that just sounds like, contamination OCD, like you're so afraid that you're going to die if something isn't clean and if you're afraid that your family's going to die if something isn't clean. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but if it isn't, type it in here and I will try to get to it if I can. It makes me feel that better that I am not anonymous. You are never, ever, 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 ever alone. Okay. First of all, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I am in absolute love with it. I genuinely don't know how to go about my recovery from my mental compulsions. It feels impossible because it's the way I've been thinking forever. Can I really retrain my brain to think differently? Yes, sweetheart, you really, really can. I know that it's hard to go about stopping mental compulsions because, like I said earlier, it really does feel automatic. It feels like you have a thought and then automatically your mind is going to a compulsion because that's what it's been trained to do. But once you start doing ERP, you won't even believe the amount of time that, like, when I started doing ERP, I never thought that I was ever going to be able to break mental compulsions because, like I said, they felt automatic. So I would compulse in my mind at least 8 hours a day. No lie. If I compulse now for more than 3 minutes, it's a lot. So absolutely, yes, it is not easy. Um, no one ever said this was going to be easy, but yes, it is absolutely possible. Let me see. What's your page? My page is obsessively anxious. So thank you for asking. Any tips for when you get stuck in avoidance and distractions? So a distraction is actually compulsing. It's so annoying, isn't it? It seems like everything's compulsions. Avoidance actually makes your OCD worse. So for me, with my OCD, I know you guys have probably heard me talk a lot about it, but I had a thought that I was afraid I was going to throw myself down the stairs. So I would avoid staying home by myself because I was afraid. And what I didn't know is that by not staying home by myself, I was letting the fear set in. Like I wasn't allowing me to trust myself when I knew very well much that I did trust myself, but I couldn't bring myself to stay home. And now I stay home by myself and I love it. I love it. I don't have one bit of fear. And if for some reason a thought comes in, it's gone within the next second because I don't pay any mind to it because I know it doesn't mean anything about me. Um, what I can tell you is with avoidance, I know it seems like logically you're doing the right, not logically. In the fear sense, it seems like you're doing the right thing because you're afraid. So you're like, oh, well, I want to stay away from things that make me afraid. But what you're doing actually is making the fear stronger. So if you're afraid of staying home by yourself, stay home by yourself. Stay home by yourself for 5 minutes. I'm not saying you have to stay home by yourself for an hour or, for the whole day or by yourself overnight. You can't expect recovery to be quick. I have been in recovery for almost 2 years now, and I still have my days where I'm just stuck in my thoughts. And like I said earlier, you have to give yourself grace. I still ruminate sometimes, I still compulse sometimes, and then I beat myself up for it because I'm like, well, I should know better. Okay, yeah, I should know better, but I'm also a human being and I'm allowed to make mistakes. And, you know, that's really all the tips I can give you for right now, honey. I hope you're doing okay. All right, let's see if I have any other questions. Dealing with the loss of self while going through recovery. My OCD has shaped my lifestyle and way of thinking to a point that trying to move away from it feels wrong, like I'm not being my true self. I know how hard this is because you know who you are
And inside, you know what your character is, and you know what your value is, and you know what's important to you. But then, oh, it's like you have two brains. You have a rational one, and then you have the irrational one. The rational one is you, and the irrational one is OCD. So you get to the point where you're like, well, which one is telling the truth? Like, you're starting to question who you are. And that's why OCD gets its grip. It's because you're questioning it. Don't question it. You know, OCD cannot change who you are. It can't change you. It can't change your values. It can't change your character, and all I can say is you are still the same person before OCD came along. It's just you're more anxious now. You're more fearful. Just because you're more anxious and more fearful doesn't mean that you've changed. And I know it feels like you're not being your true self because OCD is always trying to make it seem like you're lying to someone, but it's lying to you. So just remember that. Okay. Okay. What is ERP? God, so many people with such beautiful names today. Okay, so ERP is exposure response prevention. It is the gold standard treatment for OCD. And what it does basically is it makes you confront your fears. It sounds terrifying because it is terrifying, but it works. So, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a fear of developing schizophrenia. And an exposure for that would be watching a documentary on schizophrenics, sitting with the anxiety, and not questioning if you might become schizophrenic. You sit with it and you say to yourself, you know what? If I became schizophrenic, then there's medication for it and I would get help and everything would be okay. That's what ERP is. I think I've been getting better by doing ERP, but I wonder sometimes if I'm just telling myself it should work. So I'm pretending it's working even though nothing is changing. So it sounds like you're reassuring yourself. You got to stop doing that, honey. Um, if it works, because now your theme has gone to obsessing about if you're doing ERP correctly. And that's, it's a form of, I don't know if it's meta OCD, but now you're obsessing about doing ERP correctly. So it's just turning into another obsession. That's really all it is. If you do it correctly, if you don't do it correctly, then you're going to know because you're not getting better. So, but by telling yourself that, I don't know if it's working, if nothing is, when you say nothing is changing, ERP is not by any means an overnight process. You have to do ERP every single day for the rest of your life. It is not something you do once or twice and it's an easy fix and then OCD is gone forever. No, it's, you work at it every single day and you just hope for the best and just, when in doubt, ask your therapist if you're doing it correctly. They will have the answers. I unfortunately don't, but they will. Okay. This is a really phenomenal question. Is it normal that there's a day you can go a day without your OCD and then there's a day you feel back to square one? Any advice? When I feel that way, I feel like it's the first time. Okay. First of all, it will never be back at square one. You've learned too much. You know what OCD is now. You know how to combat it. So even though it feels like you might be back at square one, you never ever will be. Yes, there are days that I can go the entire day without, like, I really don't even remember I have OCD. And then out of the blue, I'm having intrusive thought after intrusive thought and I'm ruminating about what it means. Like, I can't get out of my mind. But it's okay OCD will always be there in the background, but that doesn't mean that it has to take your life over. And that's what recovery is. Recovery means that you don't mind OCD because I don't. If it comes up again, that's okay because I'll learn something from it. And that's kind of, I try to put a positive aspect on things. And when I have a relapse in my OCD, what I try to think of is this is just another opportunity for me to learn something new, for me to better myself so that way I'm more prepared for the next relapse. Do you know what I mean? But stay strong. You will never ever be back at square one. I can promise you that. This is also to the other question. When I'm back at square one, I will question, will I be okay? Yes, you will be. You absolutely will be. ERP is a form of CBT, I think. No. So ERP is a form of CBT. Yes, CBT is under the umbrella of ERP. But if someone that you go to that's a therapist ever recommends talk therapy for OCD, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to get up and I want you to run as fast as you can, because there absolutely is no way that any therapist that knows anything about OCD would recommend talk therapy. This is a really, really interesting and good question. This may have been answered in a different way before, but when in a relationship and you suffer from intrusive thoughts, does it mean you're mentally cheating, and are you obligated to share the thoughts? Absolutely not. Nope. And it's not funny that you asked that, but it's like insane that you asked that, because I used to think that if I didn't share my thoughts with my husband, that I was lying to him. And that's what kept me stuck in the cycle. It wasn't good for him that I was sharing all my intrusive thoughts with him, because he doesn't need to know all that. And it wasn't good for me, because now I feel like I have to tell him every single thought that I had. I had thousands of thoughts a day. That's not healthy. So no, sweetheart, you are not mentally cheating on anyone. I didn't know what ERP was, but the thought of me doing it is scary. Yes, honey, it is scary. But what I always say is I would rather do ERP and not live a life of fear, because I was fearful every single day and it was horrible. So you always have a choice. You have a choice to live the life that you're living now and be anxious all the time, or you could start ERP and you could, yes, you could be, it's okay to be afraid while you're doing it. It's a scary thing, but you're doing it to improve yourself. You're not staying stuck in a cycle. So yes, it's scary, but if you ever just need, like, some supportive words or just someone to talk to, please don't ever hesitate to message me on Instagram. I was told I needed CBT. Which one would be better, CBT or ERP? Like I said, CBT is an umbrella for ERP. ERP is what the gold standard treatment is, so I would definitely go with that. Okay, I only have like 5 minutes left, so I'm trying to answer some questions that I haven't. Just trying to see if there's anything that I haven't answered here, guys. Oh, now I understand your question from before about, okay, guys, so this was the one about cleaning, and she was afraid, like, if she cleaned her bathroom, then it would be safe for her to die. So what that sounds like harm OCD towards yourself, honey, and it sounds like contamination OCD combined together, which is a wicked cycle. Um, I just want to mention here that if you are suicidal in any way, you need to contact someone in a crisis center right now. I'm not saying you are, but realistically, I do have to say that. That would be irresponsible of me if I didn't say that. So it sounds like you don't want to clean because you're afraid of thought it's going to come into your head for you to kill yourself. And I'm so sorry that you're having that. So basically what you're doing is avoiding cleaning so that thought doesn't come into your head. So it's avoidance. So try cleaning a little area. Try cleaning, if there's a corner of your kitchen that you can clean, let the thought be present. And after a few days or so, move on to another area, a bigger area. So if it was like a little tiny piece, that's great work for you. And if you have the thought, then let it be there. And then the next day, you can move on to maybe cleaning your half of your kitchen table and letting the thought be present. And as you go forward, go to bigger and bigger spaces, and you'll see that the thought will still be present, but that feeling of fear won't be as prominent anymore. So thank you for re-explaining yourself, because that was in the back of my mind. I really wanted you to write back so I could answer your question. So thank you for doing that. Harm OCD feels like a whole different monster. How do you unbelieve the lies that it makes you believe? Okay, so what I try not to do is put OCD into themes, because realistically, the only reason why things are themes is to make people feel like a sense of community. Like, oh, well, they have harm OCD, they have contamination OCD, they have suicidal OCD. That's just all a way for people to connect in a sense that they feel comfortable with each other. Like, oh, you've had this thought, so I'm not the only one. But at the end of the day, OCD is OCD. And the lies that it makes, that's your key word, lie. You actually answered that question yourself. How do you unbelieve the lies that it makes you believe? So I'm very proud of you for saying that, because you realize that what it's doing is lying to you, but you just can't make your mind unthink it, because you're like, okay, well, if it came into my mind, then that means that it must be true. That's bullcrap. It came into your mind because you're a human being and everybody has crazy thoughts. That's why it came into your mind. The thought isn't the problem. The problem is that you think something is wrong with the thought and the anxiety that's attached to it. Doesn't matter who, what, when, where, why, what it attacked, who it attacked, why it attacked, and what it contains. It's still just OCD. All right. Thank you for your compassion. You're so sweet. Thank you for saying that. I know I'm kind of I'm like a sob bucket sometimes, because I really appreciate everyone that reaches out to me and, messages me on my page for, like, they're always saying I have compassion, but it's like, you guys have shown me compassion too. Like, I don't think you guys realize how much you've helped me in my recovery. Like, without you guys, like, I'm able to talk about my experiences and share them with you guys. Do you know how much that's helped me? So when I say I love you every single time at the end of my posts, I'm sorry. I really, really, truly mean it. I do love you guys very, very much. And you're a huge part of my recovery, and I'll be eternally grateful for that. All right, I thought I only had 5 minutes left, but it looks like I have 5 minutes more. So let me see if I can answer some more questions. Hey, beautiful. I love your Instagram and all you do for the OCD community. You're an angel. I love you so much, Kaylee. Thank you. And thank you for all your support all the time. You're an angel. All right.
I only have like time to answer one more question. So I'm trying to see if there's one thing that I haven't. How do I know if I'm avoiding a thought or trying to resist compulsions? So by trying to resist a compulsion, you're avoiding a thought. So it's actually the same thing. You should never be trying to avoid a thought, because by avoiding a thought, you're sending a fear signal to your mind that something's wrong. And by having a thought, there isn't anything wrong. You're a human being and your mind is supposed to work and it's going to come up with some really crazy crap. That's it. So avoiding the thought is avoidance, and that is a compulsion. So you're actually doing both. Resisting compulsions, I know, is a little bit harder to do, because it seems like the safe thing to do. But, you have to get used to short-term discomfort for long-term comfort. The mind is a very powerful thing. Yes, it is. It could literally take over every single part of your system. Now, one thing I want to say, because this brought up something. If you suffer from OCD urges, I want to explain why. And then I'm going to take off because it's it's 10 after 9 here, but all right. Let's say you're driving in the car. And I'm not saying this to trigger anybody, but I'm just going to give an example. Let's say you're driving in the car and all of a sudden you get a thought. What if I jumped out? And now you have tingling down your arms and your legs. Do you know why that's happening? Because your mind is a very powerful thing. You have a thought, and now your anxiety is running down your arms and your hands to make you feel like you want to do it when you would never, ever do it. So when you feel an urge, all that is, my friends, is anxiety, being an idiot, and OCD. Well, not anxiety, because anxiety isn't a bad thing. It really is there to protect you. I just like to call it my friend. It's OCD being an idiot. So when you feel an urge, all you have to do is just let it be there. It's going to correlate with what's going on in your mind. So the mind is a very, very powerful thing. And yeah, it's pretty freaking scary sometimes. Well, a lot of the time for us. But we always have a choice of how to react. We can't control our thoughts, but we can always control how we react. Always. You are always in control of your actions. No matter what OCD says, no matter what OCD puts into your head, you are 100% always in control of yourself. Don't you ever forget that. All right. I just hit my 1 hour mark, so I am going to get off of here. Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me. And I really appreciate, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for all these questions. I was so nervous being on here by myself, but thanks to all you guys, you made me feel really, really comfortable, especially with all your beautiful comments. So here I am babbling again. Thank you for everything. Happy holidays to you. I love you all. I wish you all the best. And again, my Instagram handle is obsessively anxious. So it's obsessively, and then it's the bottom hashtag anxious, hashtag bottom line anxious. So if you guys want to come over and check out my page, and if you're looking for a therapist, head on over to Treat My OCD. They are phenomenal. They have therapists all over the country that will help you at an affordable price. So, just absolutely love them. So again, thank you guys for coming out. Don't ever forget here we go. Don't ever forget how amazing you are. And thank you again for joining me. Love you. Bye-bye.